Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make a soft lemon cake. This is going to be a cake which is nice and soft, I hope. I'm using oil instead of butter in the cake, and that helps to create the soft texture that I'm looking for. It's quite a simple recipe, but it does use, well, I'm using cake and pastry flour, which is a very finely milled flour. You could use 00 flour if you have that. You could use plain flour, that will work, just the texture will be slightly different, but it will still work very well indeed. If you want a cake and pastry flour substitute, you can use 250 grams of plain flour, take out 3 tablespoons and put 3 tablespoons of cornstarch in place and mix it round thoroughly, and that will be a good substitute. So the first thing we're going to do is to preheat our oven to 170 degrees Celsius, and that's 340 Fahrenheit. It would be 150 degrees Celsius with a fan, but I'm not going to use a fan for this cake. I'm going to bake it in the static oven. And I also have a 9-inch 22 to 23 centimetre springform cake tin that I have greased and floured and tipped out the excess flour. I've also put some parchment paper in the bottom of mine, and so we'll go on to the ingredients. And for the ingredients I have 250 grams of cake and pastry flour, and that works out at 2 cups minus 2 teaspoons. I'll explain it on the basis of 130 grams per cup of cake and pastry flour. If you were using plain flour, it's still 250 grams, which is 1 2/3 cups on the basis of 150 grams per cup of plain flour if it's been scooped. Then, as I say, if you want to, you can take out 3 tablespoons of that and put 3 tablespoons of cornstarch in instead. I have freshly squeezed lemon juice, 100 millilitres, which is 1/3 of a cup plus 4 teaspoons. I have 120 grams, which works out at just under 4 ounces, about slightly less than half a cup of flavourless oil. I have 3 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA, 16 grams, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, a pinch of salt, the finely grated zest from 2 lemons, and 200 grams, 1 cup of caster sugar. And you can do all of this by hand. I'm going to use my little whisk on the immersion blender just for ease, but it will work very easily by hand because there's not much effort involved. And I'm going to put my eggs and my sugar into a bowl. And I'm going to whisk those until they're nice and frothy. So that's got the eggs nice and frothy. And so then I'm going to pour in the lemon juice, and the lemon zest, and put my salt in as well, and I'm going to whisk those around to get those combined. That's good. So then I'm going to pour the oil in as well. And get that combined. That's good. So the last thing to do is to put the baking powder and the flour in, and so I'll put the baking powder into the flour, and I will just use a little whisk to stir it around. Just to get that mixed in. And then I'm going to have my whisk working on a very low speed, and I'm going to spoon this in 1 spoonful at a time until it's just combined. So that's quite nicely combined. So that's ready to go into our cake tin. I'm just going to scrape that little bit of dry flour into the mixture and then pour it into the prepared tin. And with that in the tin like that, I'm just going to give it just a little shake. I'm going to put that into the oven and I'm going to bake it for 50 minutes until it's got a nice brown colour on top, and the skewer poked into the centre comes out clean. Then I'm going to take it out and let it cool down for a while, remove it gently from the cake tin onto a wire rack, and when it's cooled completely I'll come back and show you the results and maybe dust the top with some icing sugar. I baked our cake for exactly 50 minutes and I tested it. I pressed down and it was spongy on the top, and I tested it with a skewer and it came out clean. So I took it out of the oven and left it for 15 minutes to sit in the cake tin. Then I took it out and put it onto a wire rack to cool down completely. And I've cut a slice. Now I should say that if you want to dust the top with some icing sugar, you can. I don't feel the need for that, but I've cut a slice, and this is what it looks like. So as you can see, it's baked quite nicely, and it seems to have a very nice texture. So I'm just going to take a piece and taste it. It does have a lovely texture to it, and it has a nice lemon flavour, not overpowering. I think this is very, very good. It's very simple to make, and it's a very good cake. So I hope you've enjoyed the recipe, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, which will take you to this recipe, and I'll put a link for it below the video as well. And then I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.